what do you think about the concept of food noise? And, like, if I can just say, I know the term food noise has become more common in our culture with the rise of GLP-1s. And every time I hear it, I'm like, we have been talking about food. We haven't called it food noise.
Yeah.
We haven't been calling it food noise. We often refer to it as like food preoccupation or hyperfixation. Just like relentless thoughts about foods or cravings, right? But we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yes.
So go ahead. I know you have some thoughts.
Well, food noise is, to define it, it's like those who I guess identify as like thinking about food all day long. They've eaten and they're already thinking about their next meal.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a really challenging topic to tackle because I think there's a lot of different factors involved in food noise and why you might be experiencing it. Some could be biological.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'll share my experience. I used to think about food all day long from when I woke up to when I went to bed, and I was constantly thinking about the next meal, what I was going to eat. Like it was just constant. It was exhausting. I used to think about food all day long because of my restrictive dieting history. And when I stopped dieting, when I started feeding myself well, when I started opening my life to other interests and losing weight, my food noise started going away. Until now, I don't think about food at all. Like, I do some meal planning for the week. I do like the basics of just running a household here and feeding myself, but I'm not thinking about food. So that's sort of what I believe is happening is that people who are, so there's an experiment that was done. It's called the Minnesota starvation experiment. It was done in the 50s, I think. We have a whole podcast about it. And this is literally what they found. They had all these men in this study. They cut their calories in half. And then I think the study was for 6 months. Now, I might not have the details right on that, but we do have the details right in the podcast. Now, they followed up with these men. There was a couple men from this study that like 50 years later, they still thought about food constantly. Okay, so
even when they were getting adequate nutrition.
Yeah, so even when they returned to their normal nutrition, they went and they were living their lives, there were still men that years later, they're still thinking about food constantly and terrified of not having it. So I think there's this side that actually not a lot of people are talking about. They're like, oh, I think about food all the time. I must need a GLP-1. Okay, I'm not arguing that some people may need a GLP-1 to help manage their food noise, but there's a lot of people who need to start unpacking their dieting like trauma. Like I would call it trauma to the body. And I believe that's what happened to me. I would fast for 2 days. I would just like exist on very little, trying to lose weight fast, like whatever. And I'm not alone. This is what 95% of the population of women have been doing, right? Yeah. And so I don't doubt that a lot of people experiencing food noise are dealing and struggling with essentially their restrictive dieting trauma. Like your body has a physiological sort of reaction to you. Even so, what a lot of our members find, even the thought of changing their habits, like not dieting, not counting points, just changing their habits, they have this inner reaction. They almost feel they can't control, that they want to run to the pantry and start eating. Clearly, your body has taken all those restrictive dieting experiences in and is fighting back against it and is not going to let you starve it again. Yeah. Right. So that's part of it. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I think it is, as you said, a really interesting discussion. And certainly, I think there's plenty of research that shows that people who are genetically predisposed to obesity do experience increased food noise, and that is quieted by GLP-1s. And I think that's great for them. I also think that some consideration for like what's driving my food noise. Is it a genetic predisposition? Is it my past dieting history? Is it my current very restrictive attempts over and over and over again? Because we know there's been so much research that we know restriction drives food preoccupations. Like
Totally.
that has been proven time and time again. So the minute you say, I'm not going to have pizza, I'm not going to have brownies, I'm going to cut out alcohol, I'm going to cut out chips, whatever, your brain is instantly like chips, pizza, brownies, alcohol, drinks. Let's do.
Mhm.
I mean, you've all lived it. We've all lived that experience, right? And so like if that's what's driving your food noise, then the answer would be to work on not restricting, like
Mhm.
start working on practicing moderation and integrating the foods that you love, all the foods that you love and enjoy in a reasonable way, which is what our members are doing. We also have members who are on GLP-1s, and that is a really complementary component to their weight loss journey.
Yeah. I also want to mention that when we talk about restriction, there is being like you're actually actioning, like your life is restricted, your actions are restricted, like you've restricted your food. But there's people who are not restricting, but their heads are
Mm.
constantly full of restrictive thoughts.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
physically they're doing the thing, but mentally and
Physically, they're eating the
emotionally.
food, but mentally, they are still like it's chaos up there. So
Hmm.
we work on both in Balance 365. You need to be like, we need to be behaving in a physically well way, but we need to be looking at emotional wellness as well,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And the thoughts that you are thinking.
Yeah. So if you're eating the cookies, because okay, Jen and Annie said no food is bad food. All foods are good foods. I can have cookies in moderation. I can have a cookie on a weight loss journey. And you're eating the cookie, but internally you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. I'm gonna instantly gain weight. I can't. How many carbs is this? I feel guilty already. Oh, screw it. Maybe I should just eat them all. Like, that's there's still emotional restriction
You've still
happening.
got, yeah, you've got psychological restriction going
Hmm.
on. And in Balance 365, there's a huge emphasis on managing unhelpful thoughts and learning how to manage those thoughts.
Yeah.